I'm going to talk you through how to make a finger jointed box. We're going to use Fusion 360 for this, which is the very manual way. There are other ways. So if you look online, there's this one called Make a Case. If we go into Make a Case, we can set all the parameters to create a finger jointed box, and we can export those plans. That would work really well if we were going straight to the laser cutter, but if you want to edit that further, there's a bit of a process of putting into Fusion. So let's think about the basics. Like, this is a little basic finger jointed box. You can see doesn't look like it's going to fit together too well, but I'm going to explain why that looks like that in this video. There's also this project here which I've been working on. It's a cantilever toolbox. You might have seen this in the workshop at school. It's coming together quite nicely, so that's kind of where we could go. I'm going to start by talking through this sketch here in Fusion. It looks really complex, but it's fairly simple to understand what's going on. So you can see before I finish the sketch, we've got two components here that will fit together. One's going to be the side and one's going to be like the front and the back. We have to do a few more things to that yet. So let's get into showing you what we need to do. First thing I do is always save the work. So I've called it test finger box. And now I'm going to create a new sketch. I'm going to sketch on the front plane, and I'm going to build some kind of construction lines to create a side and a front for my box. So with the line type, I want to select construction, and I'm going to draw the overall size of my side. So 50 to 120. I'm going to make it like a tool kind of money box. Now I'm going to block in the height of the fingers. So I'm not going to put too many in this one. I'm going to put about 5 or 6. I might make them about 20 high. As you're doing this, try to avoid this center point. You can see the triangle next to my cursor there. It can come up a little bit. We don't want any unnecessary constraints as I put this together. Now I'm going to press D for dimension. You can see it over here. That's the dimension tool. I'm going to click the line, and between the two lines I want a dimension. I'm going to put 20mm steps or fingers in this box. So you can see I just typed in 20 and then the next 20. Rather than doing that, if you get the dimension to this point where it's highlighted in blue and click the first 20, you get this FX, which is a driven dimension. I'll do it here as well. So at that point I'll click this first 20, and then when you get to the end, you can clean up these dimensions just to make sure they're nicely stacked. If I change this one, so say 21, you can see they all change together. Go back to 20. If I try and dimension in this last one, it's going to give me an error to say it's over constrained. If I create a driven dimension, it puts it in brackets, and that way if I change my overall height, you can see it updates to that remainder measurement. Well, say if I didn't want this overall height in, I could delete that one first and delete this one. Dimension this to be the same, so 20. And then I could put my driven dimension on the overall. So you can see that adds up to 120. Now if I change this to 21, it's updated the overall height to 126. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. I'll change it back to 20, and we'll continue measuring this project up. I'm going to go back to line and make sure construction line's still selected. I've just put a construction line down to show the depth of my fingers now. So this will be my material thickness. I'm going to use an 8mm pine for this project, so I'm going to leave that at 8mm there. Now we've got all the construction done on our sketch, we're going to click the line type and deselect construction, come up to line, and we can block this in now with bold lines. So let's start at this corner here, and we're going to go up the fingers and we're going to click each corner point. It's important to hit the corners as we do this because if we update the measurements, we want these lines to go with our project. So it's one click on and one click off of each line. Do the whole thing. Watch what happens when I finish this outline. It goes kind of a light blue on the inside. That means we're ready to, well, we've finished that sketch. That's the oval sketch. Now I'm going to mirror this eventually, so it's going to come out here and the fingers will transfer onto the other side. So it really means that this one here needs to be half the size of our overall box. So I'm going to reduce that to 25 now. That looks pretty small to me, so let's try 35. So at this point what we can do is we can copy the overall sketch and we're going to draw like the other end or the other side. So I'm going to Control C to copy and Control V to paste. And then you've got some handles here to bring out. We can also rotate this view 180 and just bring it roughly up into the position we want. Click OK, and we've got a complete mirror of what we've just done. To align this, I'm going to use under constraints, I'm going to use collinear, and I'm going to go collinear from the bottom line to the bottom line. That just snaps it into position there. If I press the escape button and move this now, it still moves along that plane. So just to lock that into position, we're going to dimension it out from the origin point. So I've cleaned up the measurements a little bit here. You can delete the pins, keep the 8mm for the depth, material depth. Make sure you've got the 120 dimensioned on the side here. First thing I'm going to do now is going to allow for that curve with these two pins. These are the easiest ones to calculate. So between the two lines here, we want the 20 here, and we want to add 0.4. So that allows for a 0.2mm curve on each side. We're going to do the same for this one because it's a full pin going into the full kind of slot. Now at this point, let's have a think about this one. So we want it to be level at the top of the 120, but you've only got it going into one side with the cutting curve. So this one's going to be 20 plus, so the 20 plus 0.2. Now the remainder, let's think about this one here. So this component here should be the 20 minus 0.2. So 20 minus 0.2. This one here should be the 20 minus 0.4. I missed the minus symbol. There it is. And then the remainder should hopefully be 19.6, which is going to be a driven dimension. If it doesn't come up as driven, we'll put it in manually. So that should make our project fit together really nicely. That's the finish of the sketching, so we can go finish sketch. And now we're going to extrude both those components. This is where the project starts to make a bit more sense. So we're going to go to extrude, we're going to select a profile. We're going to choose 8mm, which is the material thickness. And this is really important in this section. So where it says operation here, we want to go down to new component and click OK. You can see the component has kind of arrived here as a separate component from our assembly, and we're going to turn the sketch on that we drew earlier. So we're going to go extrude again. We're going to click this extrusion. We're going to put in our measurement, say 8. And same deal, come down to new component, watch over on the side here. There's component 2, and then we can hide our sketch. So we've got these two components that will fit together. I'm going to do a mirror to kind of extend. So I'm going to go create. Before we do that, let's highlight the component that we're working with. So activation, we're going to go to join, mirror, the body, that's our body, and this is our mirror plane. Click OK, and we've got one side. Now we're going to activate the second side, and go create mirror, choose body, and then mirror plane, and we have got our two components. If I activate the main assembly now, I can use the move tool to rotate this component. It's not what I was expecting to happen. Because I'm on face here, I want component. That looks better. Now don't put too much effort into getting this looking perfect, because we'd use the joining technique to do that, but we're just going to get it roughly in position. If you do it from two views, you can get it somewhere near the mark. So that's close enough for what I'm going to show you. I'm going to select this component here and go copy, and then up to the top one and paste. Capture position, and then we've got two components now. Sorry, I have to do this manually because I selected the wrong thing. We've got two components for the side. We'll do the same for this one. So copy the component, come up to the top and paste the component, and bring that aside. So now you've got all the components for the outside of the box. We'll make a lid and a base separately. So that's the starting point of creating a finger jointed box manually using Fusion 360.